Hey, I'm Mark deClive-Lowe, and I'm here to share my process, my rig, and how I like to marry the worlds of digital, analog, man and machine all together. So this whole rig, it looks pretty complex, but I mean, to me it's very simple. I guess everyone says that about their own rig. The whole thing is running through Ableton, but primarily I'm going to be using Maschine, Native Instruments Maschine, for my looping, or my MIDI looping basically. I've got two Kaoss Pads running here. I've got two mapped USB controllers. I've got a Roland Juno 6 for the old school. I've got a Nord Piano 3, which is basically substituting my piano / Rhodes. A USB keyboard controller hooked up into Maschine. Little delay pedal here running on the Nord. I'm running everything through a Focusrite interface, and then all the master going through the mixer over there. Also the iPad running touchable iOS. So as far as clock goes, everything here is locked up. Not everything. Obviously, the Nord here is not locked to the clock. The Juno over here is not locked to any clock. And if I had a piano or a Rhodes or a clavinet or the band, obviously that's all organic. But all this information here is clocked. So Ableton is running the master. Maschine is in slave mode. The Kaoss Pads are both receiving MIDI. So they're locked into the same clock. The other key point is I'm running click. There's no way to do this in this particular context without click. If I was using a loop pedal where I'm tapping the start and tapping the end, then you get that loop kind of distance mapped out by your actual tap. But in this case, I'm running click to my ear. If I'm playing with the band, I'm also sending that click to the drummer. I grew up playing piano as my first instrument. So for me, the piano is pretty much where it all starts. And what I like to do with a piano is I like to have this running through one of the Kaoss Pads, so I can immediately run effects on the piano. Now the Kaoss Pad it's a very simple tactile effects interface and very basic sampler. So as I play something, I can touch the Kaoss Pad, and in this case a delay, run effects on there. The Kaoss Pad has two axes, an X and a Y, so wherever I move my finger, you're getting a change. So for example, with the delay, that's changing both the mix and the delay rate. There's a whole lot of different effects you can run on here. I like this kind of granulator. There's a kind of a looper chopper. At the same time, I can also sample on the Kaoss Pad. It's a really rudimentary sampler, which I like about it. I mean, you can sample in quarter notes. You can sample 1, 2, 4, 8, or 16 quarter notes. There's only 4 channels. So it's kind of like an old 4-track recorder. If I want to sample 3 times and keep going, I'll bounce all those down to the 4th channel, and then that clears up the banks. So now that's sampled into the Kaoss Pad here. I can run filters on there. Got a high-pass filter, delays, the granulator. So all those effects that I was playing in real time, I can then apply it to the sample. So if I want to start sculpting that and getting some texture out of it, I can resample it with different effects. So now it's resampled with the reverb. I can lay another effect on top of that. And then I can end up with something which is like, a whole world apart from where I started off. So for me, this becomes a really cool tool to use for basically creating textures and colors. And that just gives me a sound bed I can then play on top of. But that's the basic relationship between how I think of the piano and the Kaoss Pad. When I'm playing with the band, I can have it set up with anyone in the band routed through the mixer, so I could sample the vocalist or the sax player or the trumpet player or the drummer through the Kaoss Pad and start to manipulate that sound as well. So that the heart of the whole system, when everything's up and running, is pretty much Maschine. So each pad bank is set up with 16 sounds. I've got some kicks, snares, different snares, percussion. And then I have one pad bank which is all soft synths, basses, some leads, some pads, and so forth. With the USB keyboard plugged into the computer, running Maschine, whatever pad is selected on Maschine will be mapped to the keyboard immediately. So for example, here's a lead. That's selected now. So really with just these two alone, I've got quite a lot of power where I can sequence melodically and rhythmically using the pads and the keys at the same time. So here's the Novation Launch Control XL. I have everything in Maschine grouped. So for example, all my kick drums all my snares are on here, and so forth. So essentially I've got this set up like an analog mixer, everything's grouped, I've got immediate control over it. Because I'm programming, effectively producing on the fly, I need to be able to mix on the fly. Then I have the knob set up very simply. So I have a low pass, I have a high pass, and I have a universal effects. So that effects is basically sending out A and B of Ableton to a reverb and a delay. So that's universal across all of these. So for example, if we're looking at the basses channel, so that gives me that kind of basic control over all the sounds within groups. So now that piano is hooked up in the Kaoss Pad. So basically I have this keyboard hooked up to artillery as a beat chopper. So whatever sound I have running through Ableton or in Ableton will get affected by this. So if we play that beat again, whereas the high pass and low pass here only affect the drums and bass, the high pass and low pass here affect everything. There's also resonance here. So those give me a little more control as far as shaping all the music goes as well. The third pair here, I've got LFOs. My last pair here I've got set up so I can resample what's happening within Ableton, and these are master filters there. So if I show you that quickly. Untouchable, I'm going to basically grab that here. Now what we're hearing is the resampled version. So I've got a high pass and a low pass over that resampled version. But what's cool about this is it frees up Maschine. So Maschine, right now nothing is playing. Now that percussion I just programmed is here on A on the crossfade. The resampling is on B. I can get a blend. So the other way I like to resample is into the Kaoss Pad. So for example, it's very similar to what I was doing sampling into Ableton, but it just means that there's different parameters I can play with and different variations. So if I sample, we increase the tempo, now I'm going to sample it off into the Kaoss Pad and build on top of that. At this point, I've basically got the Rhodes, which is in Ableton. I filtered that up a bit so it's kind of more in the background. The sampled loop, which is in the Kaoss Pad. I was writing the fader down, just get it more in the mix. And then I programmed new drums on top of that. What I love about the setup with the Kaoss Pads is that in Ableton, if I resample something and push the tempo up or down, then the pitch is going to stay consistent, which is great. It's very useful. But I love it when the pitch doesn't stay consistent. So the Kaoss Pads, the way they react to tempo, is much more like a turntable. So for me, it's not about finding the sample through a record collection. It's about, finding the sample out of my own performance process. What we heard just now, that couldn't have happened without the previous 2 or 3 musical ideas that led to this moment. a big premise for this, in sharing this for me, is not like, hey, you know, do it like this. There's a million ways to do this. And I think one of the great things about technology now is how you can create this hybrid between your own instrument and the tech and approach it different ways. I think everyone's got a different way they want to do it and a different outcome they want to achieve. But yeah, like I said, hopefully this is inspiring in some way. Feel free to follow me on social media, check out my own music. You can find me on mdcl.tv, touring around the world, playing wherever I can. Hopefully see you along the way. Thank you very much.